go live to the cloud in 5, 4, 3, 2. All right. Hello and welcome everyone to another office hours session here with Power to Fly. I had the pleasure of speaking with Helen. Seems like yesterday, but while time flies really quickly, I'm happy to have her back. I see some familiar faces. Hi, Joan. Hi, folks. Everyone, thank you for joining us for today's session. We have about 30 minutes for this session, so time is going to fly by. I see we already have people dropping in the chat box, making sure that they have, their thoughts or questions there so that we can touch on them before our half hour ends. I just want to go over some quick housekeeping rules so that we all feel comfortable and confident in the next 30 minutes here. So we would love for you to participate. Participation is key, especially in these, virtual community situations. You could be doing anything else, but you're deciding to intentionally spend time with us. So please be proactive. Go ahead and use the chat box. Hop off of mute whenever you have something you want to share. I've muted everyone upon entrance just to avoid any background noise, but I can't stress enough, hop off mute whenever you have something that you would like to share, or you can just use the chat box. If anyone has any sensitive information and you prefer to be kept anonymous, you can find me in the chat box under Mariella Marie, and you can write to me privately, and I will keep your reflection or your question anonymous and flag that to our guest speaker. But without further ado, you all have submitted some great questions previous to this conversation, so we're going to dive into those questions in just a few moments, but I want our guest speaker to introduce herself. She's been speaking and dropping knowledge with you all before, but for those of you who are just joining, Helen, let us know a little bit about yourself, how you came to learn about Power to Fly, and what you're excited to share with us today.
Absolutely. Welcome everyone from all your different areas. It's exciting to be with all of you. I actually have been in recruiting for many years, 35 plus years, and my studies included women and gender studies and as a major. So I did research on age discrimination in the workplace for women over 40 for my thesis. Between that information and my personal experience, it gave me a passion for just helping women over 40 to identify and reach their professional goals. So that's what I've done, whether they want to return to the workplace, whether they're pivoting their career or just moving on and moving up. I try to help them. And I started my company, Tanagui, to work as a career counselor and a coach for women over 40. So that's what I've been doing for some time and enjoying very much.
Awesome. And just to go ahead and get this out of the way, if folks are interested in connecting with you, where can they find you online, Helen?
At tanagui.com, TANAGUI.com.
Awesome. Great. Thank you for that. All right. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and pull up these awesome questions that you all have submitted previous to the chat. And I see that we have people who have already put some extra questions here in the chat box. We'll make sure that we get to those before our time runs out. But I also just want to remind people that we believe in visibility here. So feel free to turn your cameras on if you feel called to do so. And again, hop off mute whenever you have something that you'd like to share. Helen, let's start with this first question here. How do I format a LinkedIn profile to minimize ageism towards me? How do we keep our resume short and simple when our experience could fill up 2 pages?
Well, I think regarding your LinkedIn profile, you should be not going back more than 10 to 15 years on your experience. Your profile should not include more time than that. You should identify skills that are relevant and current and not include skills that are from 20 years ago. And so someone can identify, oh, okay, they were doing that 20 years ago. So don't include any skills that are outdated. But those are I think the 2 keys to your format to avoid ageism is just to keep your experience at 10 to 15 years and to keep your skills relevant and current. Keep your picture as professional and updated as you can. Regarding your resume, your 2-page resume, actually a 2-page resume is quite acceptable. Most recruiters prefer a 2-page resume, unless you have limited experience that just fills 1 page. But if you have extensive experience, whether it's 10 years or 20, although you should try to keep it, again, 10 to 15 max, but it might be crammed on 1 page. And so they prefer being able to handle 2 pages. I think some of the things that you need to keep in mind to avoid to avoid being kicked out of the robots or the applicant tracking software, is be careful with your, when you're formatting, you should really try to keep it professional and plain text. When you're doing columns and such, sometimes the systems have difficulty identifying them. And so you just don't get past anything to get to a recruiter. So those are the things I think you need to be more sensitive to. But 2 pages is certainly acceptable. And usually when you're more experienced, something that is required to really properly represent you.
Great, thank you for diving in there. And I did get a private message as you were responding. How about folks with a long career break?
With a long career break, you need to examine what you've done for that long career break. What have you been doing? Have you volunteered? Have you been a caregiver? Have you been a parent? Because in each of those exercises, there are skills involved. There are things that you've done, whether it's manage a household, manage medical bills, manage calendars, volunteer at school, be the parent that went on every trip, organize the events for the fundraisers. You need to really sit down and examine what you've done and what transferable skills were amongst the experiences you've had, so that you can put those on a resume. So it certainly needs to be represented, but it needs to be presented in a way where you've had experience and skills that you've acquired. You may have volunteered somewhere and that gave you some skills and experience. So all of that needs to be on your resume.
And I remember the last time you shared, I mean, I love the creativity piece behind it, helping build that bridge, right? So that you can show the transferable skills and it's not just a blank, or it's not just, something that might not be appropriate for the workplace, but you can basically use the language in a creative way to show people that you have been building your skill set and you have been, networking and connecting with folks.
Yeah, leadership skills, communication skills, project management, event organization. Those are all skills that you've learned, that you've done possibly more than once or twice. So you've become very adept at. Those are all important skills for companies today.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. Okay, so let's move on to this next question here. For questions whose answers may reveal my age, such as how many years of experience I have, or even employment dates from over 10 years ago, do you have any techniques to answer these questions?
I think that the first thing I would say is that you should not have that on your resume. Employment experience, it's over 10 to 15 years again. I honestly can't say that enough. And if you've worked in one company for example, 20 years, you should try to break it down. You, I'm sure, have progressed in the company. You've had different roles in the company. So you should break it down from a date perspective, an experience perspective, into segments so that it doesn't bounce off the page at you if you're the recruiter. So definitely, I think your progression in the company is important. If there's a question about years of experience, I think that you can say something like, my experience has been very varied, but I have however many years, maybe 5 years or 10 years or 8 years of experience relative to your needs. And then maybe go into specifics on, you should have researched the company and you should have researched the job descriptions. And so you should know what you need to specifically present to them as the value you bring to the table. And so that's what you want to pivot the conversation to. When you speak about pivoting, you can pivot the conversation to where you want it to go, to your experience, to your skills, to relative to what they need. You have to prove your value to them. And so you can kind of move them away from, well, you have 15 years. Well, no, I don't have 15 years in what you need. I have 5 or 7, or whatever it is. And you direct the conversation to those specific details of your experience. If you have previous experience that you want on your resume that's more than 10 to 15 years, you can add that either in additional relevant experience without dates, or in professional skills, again, without dates. If you have, for example, you work for companies that prior to that are notable and still in business. And so the name may carry some weight. Again, additional relevant experience, you can list them without dates.
So we've got a couple questions here about, if we need to put the degrees that you've earned and when you've graduated. So Sharon writes, how about degrees earned? Do you have to put the year you graduated? And Christina has another question similar. How do I deal with the fact that I received my BA in 1995 and my MBA in 1999? These dates reveal my age. Thanks.
Dates do not go on your resume for education, ever, absolutely. They're not necessary. And in fact, if you're filling out a profile or usually it's a profile on a website, you can put in 9999. So that will fill the space without the year. It's not something that they need to be aware of when you graduated. At the time when they do a background check, okay, but then hopefully you have an offer in hand, and that's just pending that background check. But yeah, absolutely no dates on education in your resume, on your resume.
Awesome. Thank you for that clarification. So earlier you spoke about pivoting the conversation to just, make sure that you're essentially building the bridge so people who are reviewing your resume can understand how you can fit in. Let's talk about career pivots now. So we have actually a question here in the chat box. I'm 50 years old looking to move into D&I. Do you have any suggestions on how to make the pivot? And you can just speak about pivoting in general if you'd like.
Yeah, I think that pivoting is fun, but I think that you need to do a lot of research to pivot. You need to research the industry or field that you want to pivot into. I think there was another question regarding social impact, pivoting into the field of social impact. So you need to do the research on the industry, the field, people in the field, and job descriptions. And you can search job descriptions anywhere in the country just to get a sense of what skills are appropriate in that field and in that job that you're looking for, what jobs are appropriate for your background, and what of your skills are transferable for that particular job. So you need to do all of that research, and then you need to sit down and evaluate your skills, because we all, when we work for many years, we all tend to discount what we've learned, what we've done, and how much we've done. So you need to really do an inventory of your own on what you've done, what you've learned, and what you can bring to the table that's relative, again, to the pivot you want to make. Another thing is you need to, again, look at the industry, look at people in the industry, go on to LinkedIn and filter your searches down to organizations that are significant or companies that are significant in the field you want to pivot into. Look for people, look at their profiles, look at where you might have a common ground with them, where you might have, maybe you went to the same school, maybe you're in a professional organization, or maybe you volunteered for something that is relevant. Maybe they've done a podcast, or maybe they've done a talk where you can reach out and ask for a 15-minute chat with them, explaining to them that this is your goal, you're seeking to make this change, and can they please spend 15 minutes giving you some insight from their experience. People love to be flattered, so as long as you're doing that and telling them about their expertise and how important it is to you, usually they'll help you. So that's important. Also, something that you can consider, depending on your situation, whether you have time. I think in our social impact, it was someone who was looking for a full-time position. But what you might consider is looking at even part-time volunteer work in the field or the industry that you're looking to go into, because that will give you so much more to put on your resume and open many doors for you. So that's something that you should consider.
I love that, the volunteering aspect that, helps you learn and also network, and just work that muscle memory to figure out how to, bring your gifts to the table for innovation and all that. So I appreciate that as well. I'm going to read one more question right now that you all have submitted offline, and then I'm going to take some live questions. So I'm preparing everyone. So after you hear Helen review her response on this question, I'm going to ask people if they want to hop off mute. So if you do want to hop off mute after this question, this will be your time to shine. Okay, so Helen, this question reads, how does a 52-year-old seasoned professional with an MBA and MS degree pivot into the field of social impact when the competition is millennials? I'm looking for a full-time position after being unemployed during COVID-19.
Again, this is the one I mentioned, the social impact question, which and as this question states, they're looking for a full-time position after the pandemic. However, again, they need to examine what transferable skills they have for what they want to do, despite whether it's MBA or whatever their MS is in. They need to look at whether they have transferable skills, their work experience. Where, again, are those transferable skills? Have you done project management in your work? Have you done team leadership? Have you done mentoring? All of those things. You need to look at those. You need to look at soft skills. Again, leadership, communication, time management. Those are all the soft skills. Soft skills are important today. So you need to think about those. Again, I would recommend researching the area that you want to pivot into, doing the LinkedIn searches, looking at opportunities for even in social impact or in the organization that you're looking to join. Look at whether there are professional associations that they belong to that you can participate in. Where you can attend meetings or you can do webinars, so that you get more exposure and you get at least 60% of jobs are sourced through networking. So that's so key. And LinkedIn really makes such a really wonderful opportunity for you. Although for networking, you really need to have a list of everyone you know, friends, family, former associates, former colleagues, alumni associations, professional associations that you've participated in. Whatever it is, those are all networking opportunities for you. And it's not, networking isn't a case of going to someone with a resume and saying, can you get me a job? It's a case of saying, you know, here's what I'm trying to do. Here's my value. Is there something you can assist me with? If you can connect me with someone that I can speak with, greatly appreciated. So you're not asking them for a job. You're asking them for perhaps opening a door. So that's key. And again, the possibility of doing some volunteer work. I understand you're looking for the full-time pivot, but the volunteer work might give you great opportunities. I had a client who did volunteer work and in the end wound up with a great position at the organization. So those are ways to do it.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And I see we have a hand raised. Brandy, you can go ahead and take yourself off of mute and ask your question.
Hi, Helen. Thank you for your time today. So the question of transitioning, I'm getting a little bit of an echo, so I hope you can hear me. You've talked about the technical skill set and making sure that we can speak to our transferable skills. One challenge I'm having is that people are very clear that there are transferable skills and relevant experience, but they say I'm overqualified, or that we don't think that you would be happy taking this, lower salary or whatever it is. They're just, how do we deal with the softer side of this, just generally being a bias toward younger workers, for either because they, just by virtue of being younger or by virtue of, I guess, having no salary history experience really to speak of, to benchmark against.
Right. Thanks for joining, Brandy. And yeah, that question is something that absolutely is often brought up to surface. And really what you have to do, again, not to belabor the point, but if you've done research on the organization and you've done research on the job descriptions, I understand what you're saying, and there might be a concern, but you need to prepare yourself and practice and prepare to address it before it becomes an issue. You need to look at what you bring to the table, whether it's specific skills, those transferable skills, and the value that they bring with you. And then you need to address the fact that you're very interested. You need to be passionate, energetic. You need to present yourself. Unfortunately, as someone with more experience or a little more age, we are all judged the moment we are either on Zoom or in person. So you need to prepare yourself as you present yourself, both physically. You need to be energetic, you need to be passionate, you need to believe it or not. Be careful when you sit, be careful what you bring in and out. So all of that is judging you. So you need to give them a picture that shows you as very energetic and eager to join a team. You need to talk about at some point in the conversation. For example, there are many studies that have been done that show that cross-generational teams are more productive and more successful. So you need to talk about your willingness to mentor and your willingness to learn from younger people in the firm. You need to talk about if this is a new challenge, if you are, for example, pivoting, it's all new challenges. And those, for most people, especially for people, I would guess, who are here, spending their time here, it's exciting. It's exciting to have a new challenge, to be going someplace new, to be doing something new, and to be learning something new. So I think that's the way you need to address it, and you need to take the initiative to address that. How excited you are, how passionate you are about their work. You need to research enough about the organization that you can talk about their work and the passion that you have for it, and how you are eager to become involved, to be challenged by it, and to contribute to their success. I hope that helps.
Awesome. Brandy, let us, okay, great. I think she hopped off, and I'm getting some echo feedback as well. I think it's Dimitri, I was just going to call on you, but whenever you hop off mute, we get a little bit of feedback.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go for it.
Hey, Joan. I just want to say hello. I see a friend. Oh, my goodness. Thank you so much for today. I just wanted to ask about, oftentimes folks will want to reinvent themselves and go back to school and get, a new job midlife. I mean, new, education to go into a different career. And so again, they want to get the MBA, masters in different, fields. And so once they're, in a job, sometimes I've seen it's been reported to me by workers over 45 indicate that they have a hard time transitioning to get cross training within the jobs once they're there. And oftentimes what will happen is younger workers will be hired in and the older workers will have to, sometimes train. But then when it comes to actually professional development and transitioning to, learn different areas of cross training, and I've seen that in local government as well, it's not always the case. So wanted to see if you had any insight or advice regarding that.
Well, I would say that what you're describing, and welcome, thank you for joining. What you're describing is definitely ageism, age discrimination. Been there, done that, where you're overlooked for the training and you're overlooked for the promotion, and you're basically utilized for your knowledge, and that's pretty much it. My recommendation would be, number one, to engage HR if that's possible, and try to get HR to work with you to enhance the ability for you to take the training or do the cross training. Again, emphasizing the value of all of this. Again, the cross-generational teams, learning from both the older employees, learning from the younger, and the younger from the older, is only going to provide more success and more productivity. Unfortunately, a lot of companies need to be educated on that. That's just where we are today. And I think that we're making a little bit of headway, but not much. But my suggestion would be to ask the report to person for the opportunity to be involved in the cross training or in the training or whatever it is you want to participate in. Document if it's declined, if there are other people on the team that are sent to this training, that you've been declined repeatedly. Document all of that, because unfortunately, without the documentation, you don't have a lot to work with. But if you can document that you have been overlooked with HR, then HR may step in and suggest to your report to that they need to include you. So as far as that, I mean, again, you can make the quote unquote sales pitch of being more productive and more successful as cross-training and cross-generational teams. But if you need to go to HR, you should certainly engage them, without a doubt.
Okay, so if I am in HR actually.
Okay. So you need to be educating your hiring managers then, I guess, I'm assuming.
Yeah. That sounds like that's the situation. So, and I know for me, I've been working on that. I'm just saying other people who work in other organizations have shared this with me. Right. So yeah, but I am in HR as well. So
right.
I know that can, and I think sometimes it's culturally based situations like that, because it's not always that way in other organizations.
Right, absolutely not. Interestingly, having been in recruiting for 35 plus years, I've worked with HR for 35 plus years. And it's interesting to me, depending on the organization, what the cultural idea of HR is. In some organizations, they're a nuisance. And in some organizations, they're a valuable tool. So you're absolutely right that that can impact how successful you can be with that. But unfortunately, the need today is for education in companies on the value and the importance of all of these resources that we have with experienced employees that are not being utilized. And so I understand completely what you're saying, because I've had that experience for so many years. But in an organization where there is, for lack of a better way to phrase it, no respect for HR or not understanding the value of it, again, you need to document, and then you need to take that initiative to say, I have documented. I've asked you this many times. My record is flawless, and yet you've declined my requests. So I'd like to talk to you about why. What is it that I need to do for you to approve these requests, and see what they have to say. If they say you need to be 30 years younger, then you know where you stand, and you know what to do.
I love this.
Thank you.
Demetria, thank you so much for flagging this. I know you're saying that you've heard this, happening in your circles. So I'm sure that people on this call needed to hear that today. I appreciate you raising that concern. And we actually have 1 minute left, Helen. So I've got some private questions here that folks have written me, but unfortunately we won't get to answer them. I would recommend reaching out to Helen personally. Helen, let us know how people can reach out to you, and then leave us with some food for thought. This session went by super quickly, and I know that we still have a lot of questions, but please leave us with some food for thought to keep us encouraged, and then let folks know how they can connect with you to reach out more for, developing more questions there.
My food for thought, I am just putting my email and my website in chat. But my food for thought is that, unfortunately, a lot of women, as they get older, don't have confidence in what they're bringing to the table and what they have to offer. And so I think that you need to spend some time, again, inventory what you can offer, because normally it's a lot. We all have a lot of experience. We have a lot of knowledge. We have a lot of skill, and we need to just define it so that we can make people see, when we come to the table, the value and how important we can be to their success. So to be even more productive than they are. So I think it's just important. It's important that you do the basics, that your resume isn't formatted the way it was 10 years ago. It needs to be formatted today. No objective, no street address, professional summaries, 10 to 15 years experience, no dates on your education, all very important, because the minute you let any of those go, you're aged, and that's it. You're being aged. Again, how we present ourselves, we need to look at that. You can video yourself on your phone to look at how you're presenting, how you're going to appear to someone, to make sure that they can't make determinations from that. So I think all of that is important, and I would leave that with all of you to just do those things, and hopefully you'll have success.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Helen. I learn with you every time I sit and interview you. So I thank you so much for sharing knowledge, and thank you so much for keeping the chat box on fire today, everyone. Thank you for joining us and dropping your questions there. Again, I encourage you all to reach out to Helen if we didn't get a chance to get to your question today, and make sure that you stay encouraged, bring your best self to the table. If they say no, it's their loss. Listen. I believe in that. So I believe that, we will eventually, get what we are looking for, as long as we're putting the effort and, joining sessions like this to network and develop our talents more. So thank you, Helen. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy